Well, Hilary, it's good to see you. Thanks for doing this. Haven't seen you since ABA Tech Show when you guys won the Startup Alley, so congratulations on that.
Thank
Welcome
you.
and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you again.
I'm looking forward to this because, what happens with Tech Show is, first of all, you only got 3 minutes to demonstrate your product, which really isn't all that much time, as we all know. And secondly, for me, as kind of the moderator, I'm not really paying all that attention because I'm trying to figure out like who's talking next and what's going on. And so it's always difficult to really get a good sense of all the presentations during the Startup Alley. So I'm really looking forward to this. There's been a lot of interest in this since then. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people commented positively on your presentation and what you did there, and I'm sure outside the world of Startup Alley you're hearing the same thing. But I'm kind of curious. I mean, could we kind of start with what your background is and why uh, you know, what led you to create this?
Sure. Yes. So I am a healthcare attorney by training. I practiced for over 12 years. I worked in large law firms for 6 years and then moved in-house. So my first in-house role was at IBM Watson Health, and that really entered the technology space. So I moved sort of from a focus in healthcare to tech. And in those roles, I experienced over time becoming more comfortable with the key healthcare laws like Stark, anti-kickback, HIPAA. But what I found, even after 10 years of practicing law, I found that with tech adoption in healthcare, there were always new novel questions, meaning I would have clients ask me questions about HIPAA, for instance, but it didn't always fit the framework that I was comfortable addressing or advising on. And so when AI really reached consumers, I think it was the end of 2022, I started to think, I wonder if I could leverage this technology in law and specifically ask better questions so that even if I didn't know an answer, when a client asked me a question that felt like it was out of left field, I could at least ask really good questions so that after the meeting, I could get to a good answer for the client. And that's honestly the genesis of this product. I set out
Mhm.
to see if that was possible, and we have Querious today.
How did you go? I mean, had you ever done this before? Had you ever built a product before or started a
No,
company like this before?
no, a friend is a chief technology officer and put me in contact with an engineer who became our technical co-founder. So that was a really important first step in seeing if this was possible. So we built a proof of concept. The early version was a black screen with green font that would pop up. Those were the prompts, the suggested questions based on listening to audio of an attorney-client conversation. And since then, it has just continued to evolve.
Sounds like the old DOS computer days or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yes.
Um, So I know we're going to dive into a demonstration, but I mean, kind of what's the concept behind it? What is it that the Querious does?
Yes. So at its core, Querious enhances attorney-client conversations with generative AI. So we are creating a category of conversational intelligence for law. And what we mean by that is two parts. So the first part of the product is in your virtual meeting. So this product joins as a bot in your virtual meeting and produces prompts for the attorney about potential legal issues, questions, and relevant legal content that's related to the conversation the attorney is having with the client. So that's the first core part of the functionality. And we talk about that as it's a tool to maximize advice, right? Get the most out of the conversation with your client. The second part of the functionality is the minimize admin work. So familiar with practicing law, you know that when the meeting ends, your work really begins, right? You have all
Hmm.
of these things to track down. And so our functionality provides a summary email from that conversation. It's high level. It can be used to communicate with a colleague, maybe that you need help with on a particular client matter. You can also send it to the client in a very easy, transparent way. You can say, here are the issues I'm going to be working on after our conversation. So there's a draft summary email. And then there's also a detailed set of notes that includes a draft time entry. Because we have information from the meeting, we can auto draft your time entry and the duration of it, which attorneys obviously very much love. They do not like timekeeping.
Right. We know that.
Mhm.
In terms of virtual meeting platforms, does it work with all the major ones, or is it its own platform, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So our connection point is actually first to your calendar. So our product syncs with a Microsoft Outlook calendar and a Google Meet or a Google calendar. And then from there, Querious can join meetings in Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet. So we're on
Yeah.
all three major platforms.
Yeah. Okay. You may be planning to talk about this, but I know that probably the first question a lot of lawyers are going to ask about this is, how safe is it for me to be having these conversations with my client, having this thing listening in here?
Right. Right. Yes. And it boils down to the privilege question. It's, yeah, does this product waive privilege? So from the very beginning, I always knew this would be a product that attorneys would use. So I knew it would require the absolute highest level of privacy, security, and ethical standards. So some of the things we've done from an architecture standpoint have gone to protect privacy and security of the information exchanged in these conversations. So here are some examples. It's built in a secure cloud. It leverages large language models that have a private instance within that cloud environment. So we're not using a public API in the product. We also pull out personal information. So as we are analyzing audio in the conversation, we remove the names of individuals, of companies, so that it's really reduced to the data that's processed is really reduced to snippets of conversation that don't have personal information in it. And that is what reaches a large language model, then again, is a private instance of it. Also, I think it's important to call out that we don't create an audio file or complete transcription of the whole conversation. So we are analyzing audio during the conversation, but those separate files are discarded at the end of the meeting. So really what results from your conversation is the summary email and detailed notes, again, with the personal information removed.
It's really interesting. So, how do you want to proceed? Is this a good time to jump in to start to show it, or anything else you want to say about it before we do that?
Yes. Yeah. I think we'll just walk through the functionality
Yeah,
and then
let's do
maybe
that.
that'll prompt prompt some additional questions. So well actually maybe I should highlight this. So when I invite the bot into the meeting, the bot will appear similar to your note taker, actually, that's in the meeting right now. It appears to all participants. What you will not have the benefit of seeing is the sidebar in the meeting. So that is only visible to the attorney, and that's actually by design. So the reason for that is we want the attorney to stay in control of the prompts and whether or not those prompts are mentioned to the client. This is, based in professional rules of professional responsibility. This is the independent judgment requirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want
Mm-hmm.
attorneys to maintain independent judgment. So I'll add the bot and then I will go through our little hypothetical scenario. And then once we're done with that, I can share my screen from our dashboard and you'll have the benefit of seeing all of those prompts. Okay. So right
All right. So,
now,
and just so
yeah,
that the hypothetical scenario is that I'm going to pretend to be your client here, or somebody who's coming to you for from legal help,
that's
and
right. Yes.
we're going to walk through what happens.
Yes. So as you can see right now, the bot is just one more administrative point here. I'm approving that the bot has joined the meeting. You can see here there is a little bit of a description of how this product works. So we're analyzing
Mm-hmm.
audio, we're not saving audio and transcripts, and we're not using your data to train a model. So
Uh-huh.
just wanted to
Okay.
call that out. That's transparent to everyone. Also, from my view, I can see that the product is analyzing audio. There's a little icon in the top corner that is moving to indicate that it's listening, and we can get started. So, Bob, thank you for reaching out to me today. What did you want to discuss?
Yeah, well, thanks for meeting with me. I'm interested in starting a business.
Mhm.
I live in a seaside coastal town here in New England, and I've got this idea that I want to start a charter fishing business.
Interesting. All right. And tell me a
That's
little.
something you could maybe give me some information on? Or?
Yeah, no, I'm very glad that you reached out. So, just out of curiosity, so do you have a boat that you're thinking of using for the business, or are you in the market looking for one?
Well, yeah, that's the problem. I don't have a boat yet, but I have found one that I'm really interested in. It seems like it would be perfect for what I want to do, but it's in Canada. It's actually in Newfoundland, Canada. So
Okay.
I don't know if that raises any issues or not, but I like the boat.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Yeah, that's helpful to know. Let's talk about, okay, so you have a boat in mind. What about the team that will help you with this business? Have you identified individuals who will help you get this off the ground?
I don't have a lot of money to hire staff right now or to hire crew
Mhm.
right now, but I do have a guy who might be interested in helping me out as kind of an unpaid intern until I get the business going. So that's what I'm thinking of right now.
Okay. And is it a college student or high school student even?
He's a high school grad. I think he did a couple of years of college, but he's not doing anything right now.
Okay. All right. That's helpful to know. And, I'm just thinking through some of the basics of how to set up the business. Do you have a name for this business? Do you have something in mind?
I've got one. What do you think of this? Squid pro quo.
I love it. It's perfect. Although, do you know, has someone used it before? I'll definitely want to run that down to make sure you can protect a name like that.
I didn't know I needed to do that, so I haven't checked that.
Okay. All right. Well, we will definitely keep that on the list. So let me just check my notes briefly. So we've been talking about a few different issues, and I want to make sure that I just captured all of the key details. So on the boat purchase, it seems like you're not quite to the point of having an agreement to negotiate or specific terms. You're just very early on in your process of gathering those details. Is that correct?
That's right. I've actually gone up and looked at the boat and had some conversations with the guy who owns it now, but we haven't put anything in writing.
Okay. All right. Well, I can certainly help you with that when you get to that point. In terms of the intern, do you have any roles or responsibilities specifically identified for that individual? That what tasks do you think that person will help you with?
Well, he'd help me out as crew, so he'd be out on the boat with me when we go out on a charter and help, rig the fishing gear and help teach the guests on our charter what to do and how to do it and that sort of thing, and then help us just kind of maintain the boat at the end of the day when we get back in after going out for the day, and kind of just general crew duties.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. So to recap, I'm thinking of a few issues here. So the first is that you are talking about importing a boat from Canada. So there will definitely be some things we need to think about from a compliance perspective. Things that are top of mind are about import duty. So there's going to be a payment associated with that. There also might be a declaration form. I can summarize all of this for you after the call, but I'm just pulling up my notes
Uh-huh.
here and want to make you aware that there will be some administrative hoops to jump through. All right. So that's on the
Okay,
import.
yeah, I thought there might be because it's, a different country.
Yes, yes. And then you mentioned about having an unpaid internship. We will want to look into the requirements related to this. So, we might have to talk about how you could compensate this individual. I'll give you more details about this after the conversation, but basically they could be considered an employee, and there's federal, state and federal laws about compensating employees. So I'll provide some more detail after that. All right. Well, thank you so much for trusting us with this work. I think we'll
Okay.
have some follow-up items. And then once I email you, we can schedule a follow-up conversation in about a week or so. All right. That's the
Well, thank
conversation.
you
All
very
right. We're out
much.
of character.
All right, that was fun. Do I get an Academy Award or do you get an
Yes.
Academy Award? I don't
Very nicely done. Okay. So I know you're
know.
probably curious about what's been going on behind the scenes. So let me pull this
I'm curious
down.
about Curious.
Yes.
Curious about Querious.
Okay. So here we go. So this is the dashboard view with the issues
Of
that
course.
populated from our conversation. So it mentioned because you were thinking of getting a boat from Canada, there could be import laws and regulations. In the moment, I did tap into the research. So I clicked on this. There was just a very brief overview, and then there's actually sources here to government websites that provide more detail after the conversation. And these are all,
And that research would be tapping into publicly available web research sources, right? Not
that's right.
something. I mean, if you as a lawyer had Westlaw or something, you're not tapping into that. You're tapping into through the LLM into publicly available resources.
Right. Hopefully in the future that integration will be possible. We
Yeah.
have definitely thought about it. Yes. So yeah, it's intended to help navigate those conversations in a little bit more detail, especially when it's something that's outside of your practice area. So that was the first issue. The second flagged about the labor and employment concern with having an unpaid intern. So this is just producing this short summary. It's talking about educational benefits, perhaps. So this would be, just an area and the resources to follow up after the conversation.
So just to be clear, in terms of what I'm seeing now,
Mhm.
like where it says issues and you can click on them to see more detail. Those are all statements that it generated or that you prompted in as you were talking to me?
It generates it just
To determine the purchase and transportation.
yes.
Yeah.
That is something that Querious produces based on listening to the conversation. It could
Interesting.
really produce that based on the facts. So if we went back in our conversation, I don't believe either of us used import or duty, tax, like any of those concepts, but based on you saying, I would like to get a boat in Canada and I live in New England, it's able to flag those types of issues.
Interesting.
And then I'll just quickly highlight some of the questions. So this was something I used at the end of the conversation where I said, how far along are you in your discussions with the seller of the boat? Do you have a purchase agreement? Is that something maybe I can help with? So if you remember earlier in the conversation, I emphasized these in-meeting prompts have two key values for the attorney. One is to capture all the critical details, right? Sometimes conversations can go in different directions. They can be wide ranging. The second is to identify opportunities to do more work with your client, to deepen your relationship with the client. And so this was an example of this is a new business opportunity, right? If you came to me to discuss how to set up a business, having identified, okay, in the future, there's going to be a need for a purchase agreement. Okay, that's a flag to myself that this is an opportunity for future work.
Yeah. And where are you seeing this in a separate browser window or you're seeing this within the Zoom window in some way? During the call, while we're doing it in real time, do you have a separate browser window open where you're seeing this?
There's actually two ways to see it. So when we were speaking, I was actually looking at it in a sidebar that's in my Zoom window.
Zoom.
Yes,
Okay.
we call that the in-meeting sidebar, and it's an app. You
Yeah.
actually just add it as an app in your meeting. But simultaneously, and depending on your personal preferences, you might prefer looking at it, that same information in a separate window in your browser. And we call this the dashboard, this window right here where it has the active meeting tab and you can view your upcoming and completed meetings. So there's also, there's a little more real estate, of course, in a full window to be able to view the prompts. And so some people prefer to just have this open instead of this in-meeting sidebar.
Okay. Another question. What if I had answered the question about the purchase agreement? Yes, I've got an agreement here. We've been talking about. I've got a draft of it sitting here on my computer. Would there have been any ability to sort of incorporate that into Querious at that point, or bring that in and make that part of the conversation?
That is definitely in our product roadmap, very short term. We've already been
Yeah.
talking about how to incorporate external documents when the conversation is about a specific document. And we are in discussions with project management tools that can provide those documents. And so it
Hmm.
would really be an integration with some of the project management tools.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So if this is a good time, I can actually remove the bot from the meeting and then highlight
Hmm.
the summary email and the notes from this conversation if that works for you. Okay. All right.
Sounds
So
good. Yeah.
I will stop sharing here. I will just show everyone how from my end, you don't have the benefit of seeing this, Bob, but I'm going to remove the bot from the meeting by just clicking the upper right corner. So I remove the bot from the meeting. And this triggers the generation of the email as well as the detailed set of notes. So in about a minute, all of that information will be available just to the attorney. So the client won't see it unless the attorney shares that information. So I
Hmm.
will navigate. You actually could just probably hear the email chime. So it hit my inbox, and I will bring it down to this window and share it with you for your benefit. So, all right. So here is the draft email from our conversation. And it says the
Hmm.
conversation revolves around a potential business venture where an individual seeks guidance on starting a charter fishing business in New England. So this is a high level, oops, it jumped. This is a high level summary of the conversation. Here is a quick synopsis of the issues that were flagged and then administrative tasks. So it says here to research import duties from importing a boat from Canada, to verify the registration of the business name Squid Pro Quo, and then to outline the legal requirements of an unpaid intern. So in just a few minutes, I could send this to the client and say, here's a recap. Here's what we discussed. I'll be working on these items. I'll follow up when I'm done. We could also use this perhaps if one of your colleagues specialized in labor and employment space, you could forward this email to a client and say, take a look at issue number 2. It would be helpful to get some feedback from my client on unpaid internships and how to comply with the relevant laws.
Yeah. Have you in testing this, and I'm sure you've tested it extensively, do you see that it does any better or worse for certain types of legal issues? I mean, are there legal issues where it's really good and other types of legal issues that maybe this isn't the right tool to be using?
Yeah, good question. So we've tested it extensively with corporate issues, healthcare, family law, and IP issues, and it's really held up well in all of those. What we are working on as sort of the next phase of our development is further trying to hone in, when the conversation's 30 minutes to an hour, if the conversation focuses on maybe one of those issues, not all of them kind of with equal level of detail, if the conversation really turns on one of those issues, how can we further refine, right? Over time, when you get more facts, how do we further refine
Hmm.
that issue prompt? So it's able to flag the high level issues in a lot of different subject matter areas. Our goal now is just the level of detail based on ongoing, like uncovering additional facts.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've launched this now, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
commercially available. Are you
Yes,
selling this, and it's out there? It's not just a beta product at this point.
exactly. Yeah.
So how do you price it? How do people buy it?
Yeah, great question. So it is list price, it's $149.99 per month per user. And if you have buy an annual subscription, it's discounted to $99 per month per user. So you can actually set up an account in just a matter of minutes. So you can go to our landing page and I can actually show you quickly. It's a pretty easy setup process. So it's Querious.ai. And I'll just share this window with you. Okay, so this is our landing page. And then you just click get started for free. We actually offer an option where you can try it in 10
Hmm.
virtual meetings a month for free. So you complete this web form,
Kind of
you accept or you confirm your email address and then accept the terms and conditions, and you can get started. So you'll navigate first to the dashboard. I think I shared that with you, but that actually is a good call out. Would you like to quickly see the dashboard and then the detailed notes from the conversation that we just had?
Sure.
Okay, this is the very lengthy implementation process. So when you go into the dashboard, you log in, it's single sign-on. So you'll use either your Microsoft credentials or your Google credentials. When you log into the dashboard, you click on this tab called integrations, and then you just click whichever ones apply to your account. That is the onboarding or the implementation process. After that happens, your meetings on your calendar will be visible in the dashboard. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like. I'm not going to show you my actual calendar because there's lots and lots of meetings on it, but you'll see it's a nice little user interface.
Hopefully not with other legal tech journalists, that's all.
Sorry, say that again. I missed it.
I said, hopefully not with other legal tech journalists. I don't want to see all those appointments.
Exactly, yes. Okay, so here's what a hypothetical calendar would look like. So a few things to call out here. So it syncs with your calendar. You can see that these are meetings that are in different platforms. So it can join in all of those platforms as we discussed earlier. Querious is set up to auto join these meetings. So unless you toggle it off, it will show up much like your note taker that came to the meeting. But I oftentimes, it's a mix, right? Sometimes I'll have it auto join. Sometimes I'll bring it in. You can bring it in on demand. And there's also functionality in our product too, where you can remove it on demand as well. And that triggers the production of the email and the detailed set of notes. So I think that brings me to the last point, was just to share the detailed notes from our conversation. Okay, so I'm pulling up the dashboard again one more time here, and then I will show you the actual notes document from our conversation. Here it is, sharing one more time. Okay, so when I brought in the bot, this is the notes document that was produced. So similar to the email, it has the high-level summary. This gets into a little bit more detail, though, about what we talked about. This is just so you have a little bit more information for your own records. You're able to edit it too. So if you don't like how something's captured or you think there was a detail missing, you can revise that right here. It also recaps the issues as well as the admin tasks, and it will also show you the questions. There tends to be a lot of questions in a conversation, and so we've just kind of added functionality to simplify. The next thing I'll highlight is that you can export this summary. So when you click that, it downloads it, puts it in a file where you can save your documents where you normally do in your document management system. We don't want to be in the document management space, so we just make it easy to export it. And you can also, this forward summary button will just send it in email format. And then the last thing I'll highlight is if you're an attorney in a firm, here's the auto-generated billing entry as well as the timestamp. So imagine at the end of the day, the end of the week, you're going through all of your meetings. You can just quickly copy and paste these, and you don't have to think about what was that conversation about, how long was it. It's all right here for your reference.
So I know you talked about integrating with calendars. Have you given thought to integrating with practice management platforms or billing platforms to kind of just export all of that right into a client matter?
Yes, those discussions are already happening, and we've done the proof of concept work with one particular company. So basically, the integration would involve pulling, yes, you mentioned the time entry, the admin tasks, as well as exporting the notes document into the project management system. So there's actually 3 connection points that we're working on.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Then also, we talked about practice areas, types of practice this might be suitable for. Do you think it matters type of firm or type of setting? I mean, is this big firm, small firm, medium firm, all across the board?
Our early adopters have been small to medium sized firms, so that's where we've had early traction. Although we're also talking to, on the opposite end of the spectrum, to very large law firms about sort of creating this as a way to pull from their own proprietary information. So the out
Hmm.
of the box version pulls in publicly available data to provide that legal content summary. But these large law firms, they have an enormous amount of data within their own environment. And so we're exploring ways to use this as a way to leverage that information in real time in virtual meetings.
Yeah, that knowledge base could be really valuable
Hmm.
in these conversations. Well, that's great. I don't know if I have any. I don't think I have any other questions. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
fun to
you.
see. I really looks great.
Thank you so much.